for psychology now. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about relationships, and especially I wanted to focus on the relationship we have with our significant other. A lot of times when people have relationship problems, they end up focusing on whether or not they want to end a relationship or they want to keep a relationship. And this is really the first place that we start within therapy, is to determine whether or not you're one person or both people are actually committed to the relationship or they're committed to ending the relationship. It doesn't have to be both individuals that commit to end the relationship for a relationship within itself to become toxic. Instead, if one individual is actively checked out of the relationship, a lot of times the relationship simply will not sustain itself. It will grow into its own individual orientation, and the weight of the individual's growth simply cannot be held by the weight of the relationship's growth. This is really important to establish, especially before you get involved in any form of relationship counseling, whether it be premarital counseling, marital counseling, or post-divorce counseling. One of the first things to do is really to determine whether or not your individual growth is being sustained by the relationship itself. And if it's not, then it really is time to possibly look at other options and moving on from the relationship. If the relationship itself is able to sustain the individual growth, then what happens much of the time is the if the individual growth is able to sustain the relational growth and vice versa, a lot of times what will happen is you and your significant other will grow concurrently. What that means is literally that as you grow individually within your own areas of interest, the relationship within itself and your significant other is able to ground that growth within what they offer you, and vice versa. Take, for example, if one person absolutely loves to travel by motorcycle, the other partner absolutely disdains motorcycles but loves to travel. Maybe they find a mutual connection in learning how to travel, maybe with a trailer on back, where the other individual is allowed to ride their motorcycle while the other person is allowed to travel and see the sights that they want to see. It's a happy medium between both parties where the individual growth is allowed to continue while the relational growth has found a medium to ground it and sustain the relationship going forward. One of the first things that I advise really any couples to do, especially as it relates to determining the efficiency of their relationship and the sustainability of the relationship, is really to begin looking at your individual dreams. This may seem a little off subject, but it's really your individual dreams that drive your individualized growth. We were born into this world as an individual, and eventually we will exit the world as an individual. And throughout that process, we develop various dreams, we develop various myths, we develop various things that we want to take part in as a means to make meaning in our life. And that's a very important drive that each human being has, is to make meaning in their life. If the relationship could ultimately sustain those individual dreams, you're not only growing individually, you're growing as a couple. And that's the important part within any form of intimate relationship, marriage especially. If the relationships allows for the individual growth to occur, that person is subsequently going to be happy with the relationship as it stands. If the relationship stands in the way of individual growth to occur, then ultimately what happens is the person begins to grow outside of the relationship, and the foundation of the relationship simply cannot sustain that individual growth. And that's where we hear of the traditional breakup. Although I don't like calling it a breakup in a lot of ways, because really what happens in any form of a relationship that ends is that there's a slow deterioration that occurs that eventually the one individual, or maybe both individuals, have simply grown out of the relationship. And so when you approach any form of premarital or marital counseling, remember to take a look at what is your individual dreams. I'd advise getting together with your significant other, maybe over a dinner, but having a list of your individual dreams that you worked on concurrently. And these are not dreams that you have as it relates to the other person. It's not something like, oh, I want to buy a house with my husband, or oh, I want to travel to Europe with my wife. It's really your own individual goals, your own individual dreams and aspirations that need to drive this force forward. It's, I have dreamed my entire life to see Paris. I have dreamed my entire life to travel the Autobahn doing 150 miles per hour. I have dreamed my entire life to have a house on the beach. These kind of things are your dreams. These are your goals. They're even higher than goals. They're your dreams. They're your aspirations, and it's really a driving force in your life. And if your relationship can begin to work towards driving that end, that is ultimately what will help sustain the relationship going forward and help you grow individually and within the relationship itself. And until next time, I hope you advance confidently in the direction of your dreams, and I look forward to any comments, posts, or interactions you may have. Thank you.